Okay, let's be real for a second. The whole world of AI, it can feel like you're just drowning in new terms, new tools, new tech. It's a lot. But what if you had a map, a really clear strategic guide made just for leaders like you? Well, that's exactly what this is. We're going to cut right through all that noise and give you the framework you actually need to lead your organization in this new age of AI. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big why this matters for you as a leader. Then we'll build up that foundation with the core concepts you got to know. After that, we'll dive into Google's key AI models and the toolbox you'll actually use to put them to work. Then, and this is super important, we'll cover how to master your AI's output. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the big picture, strategy and responsible AI. Sound good?
All right, first up, leading in the AI era. And let's go one thing straight right off the bat. This is not about turning you into a machine learning engineer. Nope, it's about giving you the strategic vision you need to guide your company's AI plans and, actually make them work.
And this quote from Google Cloud, man, it just hits the nail on the head. Your job as a leader, it's not about the technical nitty-gritty. It's about strategic leadership. It's influence. It's knowing the right questions to ask, where to find those big opportunities, and how to do it all without getting bogged down in the code. Bottom line, it's about strategy, not syntax.
Okay, so if you're going to lead effectively, you got to speak the language, right? So in this next section, we're going to quickly break down some of those core concepts. Think of it like learning the essential vocabulary you need before you head out on this big AI adventure. So let's start with the big one, the one you hear everywhere, artificial intelligence, or AI. This is the huge umbrella term. It's really any computer system that does stuff that normally takes human intelligence. Things like solving problems or making decisions. It's the whole universe we're talking about.
Okay, now, inside that universe, we have machine learning, or ML. And this is where things get really, really cool. Instead of a programmer writing rules for every single little thing, these systems, they learn from data, just like we do. They spot patterns and get better at a task all on their own, just by doing it.
And that brings us to the star of the show today, Generative AI, or Gen AI. This is a special kind of AI that doesn't just understand or analyze data, it creates brand new, original stuff. We're talking text, images, music, even code. It's not just a thinker, it's a creator, a total game changer. So how do these things learn? Well, there are two main ways. First, you've got supervised learning. The best way to think about this is like giving the AI a cheat sheet. You give it a bunch of data that's already labeled with the right answers. Then there's unsupervised learning. This is more like detective work. You just give the AI a mountain of unlabeled data and say, go find the patterns. For you as a leader, the difference is huge. Supervised learning takes a lot of work up front to label everything. But with unsupervised learning, you might find amazing insights you weren't even looking for.
Okay, so now that we've got those basics down, it's time to go from the what is it to what can Google do with it. Let's dive into the pretty incredible AI landscape that Google has built.
Okay, let's talk about Google's foundational models. Now, the key here is to think of these not as a single magic wand, but more like a specialized toolbox. Each tool is built for a very specific job. And this table lays it out perfectly. You've got Gemini, which is like the big, powerful brain that can handle text, images, audio, you name it. Then there's Gemma, which is this lightweight, super flexible option for when you need to run things on your own systems. And then you get to the creative stuff. Imagine can whip up amazing visuals for an ad campaign, like instantly. And VO, it can create high-def, personalized videos. The big takeaway here for leaders is simple. You got to match the right tool to the right job.
All right, so if those models we just talked about are the powerful engines, then the platforms and services are the car you drive. In this section, we're going to look at your Google AI toolbox and see how you actually put this stuff into action to solve real problems.
Okay, here's the situation, and I bet this sounds familiar to some of you. You've got different teams, all doing great AI work, but they're using different tools, they're not talking to each other, and it's causing duplicated work and major headaches when you try to scale up. So how do you fix that mess? Well, the solution is something like Vertex AI. You can think of it as the central command center for all your AI projects. It's one unified platform that streamlines everything from building and deploying to managing your AI. It gets everyone on the same page, and boom, no more wasted effort.
Okay, next scenario. Picture your team just drowning in reports, right? Stacks and stacks of documents. You know the golden nuggets are buried in there somewhere, but finding them by hand is just
painfully slow. How can you use AI to just accelerate that whole process?
That's exactly what a tool like Notebook LM is for. It's brilliant. You basically feed it your own documents, and only your own documents, and it becomes an instant expert on that specific information. You can ask it questions, get summaries, find connections. It turns days of reading into minutes of conversation. It's like having your own dedicated research assistant.
Okay, so we've got the concepts, we've got the tools. But, and this is a big but, how do we make sure the stuff the AI creates is actually accurate and reliable? In this section, we're diving into how you can master the AI's output and get results you can really trust.
First, let's talk about the big problem, hallucinations. This is the stuff of nightmares for businesses. It's when an AI just makes things up. It'll state something that sounds totally plausible, but it's just plain wrong or completely fabricated. Like, imagine it inventing quarterly revenue numbers for a competitor. Yeah, that's a huge risk.
So what's the solution? It's a technique called grounding. And it's actually pretty simple in concept. You're essentially forcing the AI to connect its answers back to a real, verifiable source of information. That could be your internal company documents, or it could be Google search. It basically tethers the AI to the real world so it can't just fly off and make stuff up.
All right, here's another classic issue. You trained your AI, it's working great, but its knowledge is stuck in the past. It doesn't know about the new product you launched last week. And the last thing you want is to do a full, expensive retraining from scratch. So what's the fix?
The answer is a really clever technique called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or just RAG. Think of it like giving the AI the ability to do a quick, real-time search before it answers your question. It can look up the very latest info from, say, your new product docs, and then use that to give you an accurate, up-to-the-minute response. It's a total game changer for keeping things current.
All right, let's bring this all home. For our final section, we're zooming out from the tech and focusing on the leadership blueprint, because having all these cool tools is one thing, but how do you actually implement them strategically, ethically, and responsibly? That's the million-dollar question.
And that brings us to something that is absolutely non-negotiable: responsible AI. This can't be an afterthought. For you, as a leader, you have to build on these three pillars. Fairness, to make sure your AI isn't biased. Accountability, so you know who's responsible. And explainability, you have to be able to understand why the AI made the decision it did. The HR example is perfect. If an AI is helping screen job candidates, you absolutely have to know its reasoning to ensure it's being fair and transparent.
So, that brings us right back to you. We've laid out the map, right? You've got the core concepts, you know the tools, and you have the strategic framework. The only question left is, where do you start? What's that first, high-impact but low-risk project you can champion to really get the ball rolling with AI in your organization? That's the journey, and that's your first step.